The congregation at Crosspoint Church in Nashville was surprised this morning by an announcement from one of the founding pastors.
Leaders in any realm of life, leaders who lead on empty don't lead well. And for some time now, I've been leading on empty. And so I believe that the best thing for me to do is to step aside from Crosspoint. And so I am officially resigning as the pastor of Crosspoint Church.
That's Senior Pastor Pete Wilson announcing he is leaving the church that he helped start 14 years ago.
All right, this is Theology on Tap. Today I want to talk about why pastors get burnt out. This is kind of sad news. Crosspoint Senior Pastor Pete Wilson resigns. You just heard him say he's burnt out. He's running on empty. Actually, on his speech, he actually said he was broken. And that's kind of sad. And I think it's a good decision for him to step aside now before he gets out of control. Because we have seen many pastors in the past do stupid things when they get all burnt out. When I was growing up, it was Swaggart and Baker who was, hiring prostitutes on a weekly basis, doing drugs. Recently, about 10 years ago or so, I think there was a pastor named Haggerty in Denver, Colorado, I believe. He was a champion in anti-homosexual ministries, but it turned out he was gay himself, and not only that, he was doing a lot of different kind of drugs. He had to step aside, definitely. But at least for Pastor Pete Wilson, it's kind of sad that he's broken, but it is a good decision to step aside now before it gets any worse. But I really think, though, for someone like Pastor Pete Wilson, I am betting that he would get some rest, get healed, and come back again. Maybe not in a big church like Crosspoint. Maybe he'll start another ministry somewhere quietly and start up again. And let's hope that will be the case. But I'm doing a video here today because I want to talk about why pastors get burnt out. Right? Why are they so empty? And you noticed if you go to some statistics on Christian pastors, it's pretty crazy, actually. 90% are always fatigued. They feel tired. A lot of people they feel that they're not qualified to be a pastor. Something like 38% of pastors are either divorced or currently in the divorce process. That's just pastors that are serving the church. But if you overall, over 50% of people that go into ministry actually get divorced. That's pretty high, over 50%. That's way above an average divorce rate. 70% of pastors constantly fight depression. I think this is a big one too. 70% of pastors constantly fight depression. And I don't know what that is. I mean, we could talk about why being a pastor is such a tough job. But I don't know if the job itself brings about depression or people who are more prone to depression look for being a pastor. But I want to go over this right here real quickly too, why pastors get burnt out, and I want to put myself to see how I am doing. And then at the end, I want to go over how we could solve it. Yeah, we could solve this. We could. If people would just listen to me, which nobody will, but if people were to listen to me, we could fix it. All right. Let me see. Administration burnout causes. A lot of the pastors spend a lot of time going to a lot of meetings and doing a lot of emails, newsletters and stuff. I don't have to worry too much about that, so I'm okay. I'm not burnt out at all in that case. Family burnt out causes. There is tremendous pressure to have a perfect family. I have zero pressure to have a perfect family. In fact, I think my wife is one that really holds our family together. She's as perfect as a woman could be. So, hey, I have no problems. And as far as my wife and my kids being criticized, I don't know anyone that will criticize my family. So I have no problem with that one either. Anyway, pastors are expected to be able to preach, teach, and pray at a moment's notice. This, I think, to a lot of pastors is a problem. But thankfully, for me, I'm able to preach, teach, and pray at any moment's notice. So thank God that I do have that gift. I don't have any concerns for that, and because I don't have any concerns for that, I don't really have any burnouts. Now, this one, however, financial cause of burnout, that's definitely, pastors don't get paid enough. I mean, there are mega churches that pay pastors a lot of money. Thank God for them. But most of the churches in America are small, tiny, less than 100 members. I mean, if a church has 100 members, I think a pastor could be paid well. But if a church has less than 50, that's going to be very, very difficult. Conflict reasons. Yeah, there are a lot of conflicts in the church, without a doubt, which is kind of weird, isn't it? Bible says to love one another, serve one another, but there is a lot of conflict in a church. Now, if you ever served in a church before, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what it's like to work for a church, you should sign up. Sign up for a committee or anything to work in a church and see how difficult it is to work for a church. All right, sin burnout causes. This is crazy, big one too. And let me read this. There are tremendous temptations to moral compromise. Yeah, like adultery, doing drugs, and things like that. The overwhelming amount of stress on a pastor causes him to seek temporary relief, distractions, food, TV, pornography, laziness. Now, this right here, I disagree 100%. I think the problem with people who get burnt out, part of the problem is this. There are a lot of programs and a lot of places that are designed for pastors to get over their emptiness or to make sure they didn't get burnt out. There are retreat centers that allows pastors to stay for free. I could take advantage of that, which I have not done yet, but I could go there and stay for free, enjoy a weekend in a nice place, quiet, remote place without paying a dime. And a lot of pastors get a lot of time off from church. A lot of time. Like a lot of pastors in a big church, they get every seventh year, they get a whole year off, and they get paid for going on a vacation. That is crazy, right? So I don't know why a lot of pastors will get burned out, but I think a big reason could be this right here. Sin burnout causes. A lot of pastors preach against sin, and yet they are involved in that very particular sin that they're preaching against. So how can they feel good about themselves? That is crazy. Maybe I'll do a video on this one too. But hey, I don't have to worry about sin burnout causes, because if you have seen my other videos, you know what I think about sin. I don't consider myself a sinner. I'm a son of Jesus Christ, son of God in a way, spiritually. So I don't have to worry about that. Self-perception cause, I like myself, so I'm okay with that. Theological pastor burnout. Theologically, we find ourselves living between periods, between now and... Yeah, this is a big problem too. Christianity are stuck in between two covenants, right? There's the first covenant and there's the second covenant. Covenant of the Old Testament and the covenant of the New Testament. They want to hold on to both of them, or they're stuck in between, or they try to combine the two covenants, and that is wrong. And I think that's what a lot of pastors do get burnt out. Bible is very clear. The old covenant is gone, is obsolete. We should abolish the Old Testament covenant. We have a new covenant in Jesus Christ. But churches don't do that. I think the reason why they don't do that too is because, if you don't call everybody a bunch of sinners and no good and depraved and to do anything good for themselves or to please God, if you don't say things like that, then the story of Jesus becomes very, not as attractive, I guess. You got to make people feel guilty in order to turn to God. But it's still a problem because a lot of pastors, I think they know, right, that they don't tell the whole truth, or they're conflicted in scriptures. There's one verse that seems to say Jesus is a universalist. Another verse seems to say he's not. So they have a lot of things to work out. I did a video on Pastor Francis Chan and how he was talking about Romans 3 verse 23, how he uses that verse to make everybody feel bad, but he never goes into verse 24. Things like that. Pastors has to know. They have to know that they should use verse 23 and 24 together, but they don't, So that could be a cause for a burnout. Psychological burnout, like, dealing with people's problems, people, coming to you for counseling. And there's counseling wise, man, everybody needs help. That's for sure. I mean, who doesn't need help? Pastors are some of the quickest people to identify depression, stress, and burnout. Like a lot of times people come to you with struggles, and I mean, we would love to help out as much as we can as pastors. Definitely, we pray over people and whatnot. But hey, when you hear stories about somebody having depression or having a huge problem, and you pray over them and they get healed and everything is fine, well, that rarely happens in a church. You know that, right? I mean, in life, it really doesn't happen. And when it happens, it's great. Let's make a video of it. But most of the time, it doesn't happen. And I'm sure there's a lot of burnout. Pastors seeing the same person over and over and over and over again. That could be like that. Spiritual burnout, once again, as far as I'm concerned, psychologically or spiritually, it's not really that big of a concern, I guess. It says preaching and teaching so frequently leaves the pastor spiritually dry. I have no idea what that means. Schedule burnout, definitely. It could be a problem for other people, but our church doesn't have too many programs, nor do we have a lot of people to schedule things with, so I'm pretty okay. Health-wise, my back hurts, my knee hurt, but it's just a sign of getting old. Anyway, so let's read the burnout cause conclusion. These 53 burnout causes are really stressors that lead to burnout. In and of themselves, they're not symptoms of burnout, but they certainly lead to a burnout after at least of these. Burnout causes you might lead a little humor. Humor. Yeah, you gotta have humor in your life. But as a pastor, if you have too much humor, it's not a good thing either. I'll tell you this. I met another pastor last week. I met him for the first time, and usually I don't want to talk about my theology because it throws people off. So I was talking to him. It turns out that he's from Russia, but he's Korean too. So I asked him, hey, how many languages can you speak? And he told me he could speak 4 languages. Right? So the first thing that came to my mind is, man, that could be very useful in picking up girls. And I thought it was funny. I don't know. Maybe my sense of humor is... I don't think he found that to be too funny. Anyway, I got to keep reminding myself that a lot of pastors don't like jokes. Anyway, so here we go. Here is a solution, ladies and gentlemen. And if you are going to a church, when you talk to your pastors and whatnot, please go over what I said here. All right. Ezekiel chapter 44. Now, it is true that God set up the whole system of religion, all the rituals and things like that. But I think, like I said, the way of the Old Testament is obsolete. But here in Ezekiel 44, what we see is the priests, the Levites, who are responsible of giving sacrifices unto the Lord for the people, taking care of the temple of God, they have gone against the Lord. Right? They have broken their love for God. So because of that reason, this is what God said. And the Levites that are gone away from me when Israel went astray, which went astray away from me after their idols, they shall even bear their iniquity. So here comes the punishment for going away. Yet, even though they sinned against the Lord, yet they shall be ministers in my sanctuary. But here's the thing. Having charge at the gates of the house and ministering to the house, they shall slay the burnt offering and sacrifices for the people, and they shall stand before them to minister unto them. Now, it doesn't sound like a curse or anything, but here's the reason why it is a curse. God is punishing them in a way because they want to, gone astray from God. He's going to say, I'll let you, I'll allow you to continue to minister in the sanctuary, but having charge at the gates, not in the house, but on the gates of the house, and ministering to the house, and they will do all the rituals and stuff, and they shall stand before them, the people, to minister unto them. And this is in my opinion, biggest reason why pastors and leaders of the church gets burnt out. because they are sitting at the gates, looking at the people, and ministering unto them. Now, if you remember the statistics on pastors and whatnot, there is a lot of stress of dealing with people and ministering unto them. So here's a picture of God's temple, and if you could follow, I don't know if you could see this. Right in here is the temple of God, inside the temple of God, and not many people are allowed to go into this holy place, and inside here is the Holy of the Holies, right? So most of the priests, the Levites that went against the Lord, went astray, were staying out here at the gates. Here's the altar, and people will come and they will go up and give sacrifices and whatnot. Now this is the problem. They're ministering to the people who come by up here every single day. Every day they will come. Right? And it doesn't, I mean, imagine doing the same thing over and over and over and over. It's like you're dealing with people who are sick and whatnot, and you're praying and you're doing things for them, and they never get better. That can be very frustrating. That is a cause for a burnout. Minister unto them. And if you look at the church today, how many programs do regular churches have that would minister unto the people? A lot. In fact, most of the times we have programs that is ministering unto people. Okay? Now, it says this about another. It says, but the priests, right here in verse 18, but the priests, the Levites, the ones that did not gone astray, right, it said, they kept the charge of my sanctuary when the children of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister unto me, and they shall stand before me to offer unto me fat and the blood, says the Lord. I think that is the biggest problem. Now, when I started the church 22 years ago, I told my wife and everybody in my my kids weren't born yet at that time, but I told my wife, I know you're my wife, and I know that a lot of churches think that when you hire a pastor, they hire their wife as well, whatnot. But I remember telling her, you don't have to worry about anything, you don't have to do anything, because we don't want to have a program where the pastor's wife is in charge of, because I didn't want her to get burned out. You know, she has a regular job as well, so forget that. I'd rather have her be happy. Right? And as far as other Sunday programs, I said none, no way. We don't even really have a Sunday school or anything like that, because it just causes too many problems. I just want people to come and worship the Lord and minister unto God. I think that is the major difference. If you start having programs to minister unto people, you are going to get burnt out, because it just doesn't work. Our job as pastors is to point to Jesus Christ, have people meet God, and it is their life, their relationship with God that we need to encourage and just point to, and that is it. That's why Paul said, hey, all I do is preach Jesus and Him crucified, nothing else. I think we should hold on to that. But in today's age, when we want the churches to grow up to, having 7,000, 10,000 members, that is just beyond crazy. Like, this is how we should fix it, okay? A church should never go over 200 members. Now, this is a model that I learned in seminary. They said when you have a church that is over 200 members, then you start losing the sense of family, the sense of unity. It just becomes a business that you have to run. So we don't want that. So anytime you have a church that is nearing 200, so I say about 150, you take a 50 of that members and start another church, maybe a couple miles away, and have worship together once in a while, whatever it may be. But then we don't have too many conflicts and whatnot. Of course, you're not going to have a huge building where you could have all these plays and big praise band, and what else is there you could do? Big programs where you could send missionaries around the world. You don't give millions of dollars to some kind of cause. You can't do that. But trust me, I think it's much better to have a smaller churches so we could keep the sanity of the pastors, right? And stop. I don't think church should be so program oriented as well, because when you become program oriented, then you're really reaching out to the people for the sake of ministering unto the people. And when you start doing that, there is no end. People don't change. It's not going to happen that is why, like I said before, when somebody does change, we make a big deal out of it, because it rarely happens. The best way for people to change is for us to point them to Jesus Christ and let them worship. minister unto God. I think there's a huge difference. All right. Now, I might talk about this a little bit more next time. Thanks for joining me today. Keep coming back. Please do subscribe to this channel, like this video, and please share. All right. God bless you. Thanks for joining in today. See you next time.